This is your weekend market review for Friday, April 26th, 2024. Let's go.
Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka The Trading Agent, and this is your weekend market review for Friday, April 26, 2024. Hopefully you had a great week. As we talked about, the market was oversold near term, likely going to rally, pop around, chop around, whatever you want to call it, going into earnings and now going into next week. Lots of data, jobs data. We've seen a massive amount of layoffs coming. We know there's a Fed decision, which they're not going to do anything, and then there's tons of other data along with earnings. Big earnings week, probably the peak of earnings season. So, if you're new to the channel, check out the Discord room. Let's describe and talk about what is going to happen this coming week. We're here to help out. If you have problems with trading, you're struggling with understanding what to do, struggling with real estate, say you want to buy, sell, invest in real estate, you're confused. What can I do to help? What are the things that you're struggling with? Let me be your hero. Let me help you out. Let me help you solve some of these problems because you're not alone. I think a lot of folks going into this weekend are expecting, I don't know, big fireworks. Let's just go through the data, play with it, and see what we see. Because again, I think as we talk about, when the 20 days and the markets start turning down, you're not going to go down in a straight line. Over the weekend, yes, another bank going belly up. Thank you, Banff, for posting that. Saw that as well. And so we know we got big earnings, big data. It's going to be a fun one. New to the channel, check out the Discord room again. Hit me up if you want to do a live chat. Let me know I can help. Check out the website, thetradeagent.com. Lots of great information here. Reach out. When in doubt, reach out. Also follow on YouTube, like, subscribe to the notification bell. On thetradingagent.com also is all of the educational videos, more descriptions. Check out this video, guys. I'm telling you how to trade the days before because it's going to be choppy and sloppy. Follow the trades. Follow all our trades because, again, I'm posting them on Twitter. You don't have to necessarily be part of the Discord room. If you want to join the Discord room, it's much more in depth. Always here to help. That's where we're dropping them. So we know going into next week, the odds of a cut, rate, hike, anything are zero, basically. I mean, this is nothing. The Feds do not want to surprise the markets. They don't ever want to. Bitcoins, we talked about chopping around between 61,000 and 71,000. Good old oil. Global demand destruction. Just a little head and shoulders top here. Again, I don't think the downside in oil is like as big as it was from COVID because we have to refill the SPR. We have a lot of shortness in supplies. Do not be surprised as it pulls back. Again, natural gas, as we talked about, these levels are chrome. Like they're a gift down here. A gift, an absolute gift. But do we rip and lift off until the Feds pivot? That's the thing. I've told you guys, and I'm over and over and over. The best time to buy miners, gold, silver, oil, gas, materials for the long term will be when the Feds pivot and the liquidity flows. We're not there yet. But again, never know. It can change. Dollar, we talked about chopping, holding up really well, guys. Just, again, dollar holding up says to me a lot of things around the world mean that they're not as good as us, which, again, it's kind of a set. Like, it's like who's the best turd in the toilet? Which one's floating? The dollar. My opinion. TLT, as we talked about, oversold, chopping around. Again, if rates go higher, beware. VIX, man, look at this, back to 15. Did not have, again, wasn't out of town all week doing at the Pace Morby squad up. Again, creative finance meeting, awesome. Great meeting, a lot of cool people. Look at that pop, man. Breaks the downtrend, coming back to the 200-day. Did not expect that. Again, here's the thing. Like, there's certain things you expect and something you can't. And that's where you trade a probability-based game. And if you're wrong, sometimes you're gone. And if you're right, you hold out. Look at this. Look at the VIX. I mean, I was just watching the Vixen and the VIX. Oh, what happened to the Vixen? I guess there we go. Chopping around. And then the VIX. Look at this coming back into the low end of the range. It's like, wow. Wow. Nice work. SPY popping today. Again, it's funny because we talked about oversold, filling the gap, due to chop around, due to bounce, and everybody's saying like, "Oh, you're bearish," and it's like, no, we talked about like 7 red days in a row, probably due to bounce. Look at now the 20 days curling down, chopping around. I mean, this is the level again. I would not be surprised if we extreme to on a pop with the Feds or some sort of earnings or something. That to me makes sense. Remember, down on heavy volume, rallying on light. QQQ, which has been leading down, gets a little pop. Check it out, 20-day. I mean, talk about retesting levels. Support equals resistance, right? Keep it simple. IWM's been lagging. Lag. Talked about the levels again. 20-day, 100-day. I mean, could we get up to 201? That's what I'd be watching. Gold, again, I like gold long term. Don't ever get that twisted, but I don't trust it near term. Look at this big ass red candle distribution, and now we're basing at the 20-day. Silver been lagging hard too, right? After it bounces, look at this. GDX, popping. Okay, cool. Is this a little double top? Double A top? I mean, watch it. I mean, again, I've said, I'm on record. I like dust in the sevens. Makes sense to me as a hedge. If the market rallies a little bit, miners get crushed. And if the market gets crushed, miners get crushed. It's a nice little trade setup. GDXJ, same thing. AEM. I mean, you have a whole host of things going on. AEM, nice. I mean, AEM is, again, and I love talking about leaders, and this one is holding up well. So when the crap is done hitting the fan, I like AEM. We like AG as well. I mean, big, like silver. Newmont had earnings last week. Nice pop. Hence why the GDX probably bounced. I mean, watch the gaps. Please mind the gaps. There you go. Right? There's the gap. See what happens. PAAS. Talked about holding, chopping around. I mean, all these names. Just be careful. Taiwan Semi. Let's get into tech because this is where it gets interesting to me. These are the easiest shorts. Look at this. Oversold. Bounces back to the 20-day. Interesting, right? Micron. Chopping around. We talked about it. I mean, again, think about all these names. They pull back hard. Chop. It's normal. AMD. Absolutely throttled. Barely budging, though. But they have earnings next week. Keep in mind, some of these names have earnings. NVIDIA. Got to give it credit. I thought this 820 level was going to be I can't say it, hard. Maybe it's going to get back up to 906. Again, this is where if you're short, you have stops, you just play the game. SMCI has earnings next week. We talked about filling the gap. Got it. Rally back. Okay, maybe it fills this gap. Play the game. Know the levels. Intel, we've talked about, been an absolute dog. Gaps down on its earnings. Near term, look at the levels. Look at the levels, guys, gals, friends, right? I mean, I'm just kind of expanding this because, again, if you look to the left, look, not surprised. If it holds here for a couple days, that makes sense. Maybe a week, too. I don't know. SMH, getting that little bounce back. Okay. Again, watch the levels. Watch the levels. Be careful. Adobe, gap down on earnings, been chopping around, holding at an old trend line. Apple, looked like it was about to cliff dive. Okay. Going into earnings, maybe there's some shorts to squeeze. Again, the longer this chops, the longer, in my opinion, the better it is for a short or a bigger move, right? Chop leads to big moves, chops and pops. Amazon rallied on some GOOG stuff, hits the 100-day. I mean, perfectly. They have earnings next week. Be aware. Meta, oops. I mean, again, I tried to warn you guys that again, I'm not saying that they can't. What's the best way to describe it? The move was over. It's just you didn't know when it was going to start down. Well, now you get the gap down. Don't short that. Now you look at the levels. Look at the levels. I mean, this seems very clear to me. 450, 460. Maybe you get a long wick. Who knows? CRM, chopping around. Guggenheim, earnings pop. Congrats. I mean, again, if you're long this, great. But today's action, zoom out. Right. You've gapped over the old highs. Big volume. Okay, keep an eye on it. I'd be watching for chop, and I'd be watching this 171 area. If that takes out the lows, goodbye. Microsoft said last weekend's review said, watch the 499s. It drops below it, rallies back all over the place. Good luck. Good luck. I mean, that's the interesting earnings reaction, right? Gaps up, closes at the low of the day. Somebody was a selling. NDAQ, we talked about this being a turd, holding the 100-day. MicroStrategy. I mean, I'm not surprised that we talked about these levels getting down here. Oh, it went below it. Okay, watching the 1200. They have earnings next week as well. I mean, I'd be watching the 20-day in this area around 1400. If it can get over it, it can go. Netflix, we talked about the second quarter is always crap for Netflix. Or the earnings into the second quarter because the first quarter is going to be a dud. Why? Because no one's adding Netflix after the first quarter. People are Christmas and shopping, all the gifts and adding. They're sitting around watching the holidays, and then there's like a delayed, like a vacuum that has to be filled. Like there's just not going to be a lot of subs. Watching the 100-day. Roblox that we talked about. Goodbye. Pan W, again, I apologize, not around this week. I like this name. We know cybersecurity. We know Pelosi's betting on it. Problems. I mean, in time, I don't think it's any doubt it's going higher. Near term, tough. Tesla oversold, rallies on its earnings. I mean, it's just back to where it was months ago. I'd be watching the 170s, just like some of the guys in the Discord. Yeah, watch the mid 170s. If that fails, you're good. Airbnb, nice little rally back, chopping around. Costco, chopping around, watching the 20-day, holding at it. I mean, this is tough near term. Again, I mean, if there's easier trades, then just go with them. Starbucks, we talked about this thing being a dog, oversold rally. Not surprised. You got a little OPEX action. I mean, all sorts of fun stuff. Federal Express, gaps up on earnings, looking great. Gives it all back. Caterpillar, missed this one. It had earnings while I was gone. Look at this, gap down. I mean, definitely a little buying down here, but it's tough near term. Again, I mean, that we talked about, there's like, it had to be perfect, their earnings, and I don't even have a chance to review them. It doesn't matter. The gap down says it all. Nucor gap down on earnings. We talk about, like, be careful. Again, we like commodities long term, but they're going to get choppy and sloppy. X has earnings next week. I'm not surprised that this thing is back down to the 200-day range lows. VALE stuck, going nowhere. Arrow holding up. Again, I like copper long term. We like this name. Talked about watching what happens, pulling back to an old trend line. This is tough. I mean, these are going to be choppy and sloppy. You do what you got to do. I mean, I wouldn't chase. CCJ, again, I love uranium long term, but I hate when Goldman upgrades these at the highs. It makes me skeptical. It's called the buddy pass. They unload their positions to clients. CF has earnings next week. We talked about the ag name, just chopping around. Chop. SAIC has earnings next week. NTR, chopping. Right? AA Aeron. Again, I like aluminum. It goes into everything. Near term, it's coming into resistance. Just be careful. XLF, we talked about it topping and then rallying back. Talked about like watching the 20-day. Again, this is what could be coming to a market near you. Right? Drops, quick, rallies back. This is what we talk about, trade around your positions. If you did, you're freaking killing it. Love you. If you're not and you're frustrated, I get it. JP Mo, probably going to fill that gap, right? That's what I'd be watching. Morgan Stanley Morgan, back chopping. Again, if you zoom out on Morgan Stanley, you realize like it's just been lagging for a while. And so watch these range. The Bank of America, here you go, back near the highs. Goldman, I mean, again, I'd like the short here at the 20-day, but look what happened. This is why you have stops. You can't assume anything. Certainty is dangerous. Man, I'd be watching this level around 418. Comes back. Carry, we talked about, can't get over 50 level. Chop, fizz. What relief it is. XBI, again, we talked about places like, this is like a risk on name. Risk on, risk off. But it is oversold, so could it chop around, right? Housing index, I'm trying to like pop this one up in there every once in a while. We talked about how housing, here's the 20-day curling down. I mean, all these things look bearish to me. It's just everybody goes, well, if it doesn't go down every day of every week and all the time, then it's a bull market. And it's like, okay, all right. Solar, I talked about this stuff being at the range lows, little oversold rally. Again, this is what's tough is when these things have gotten throttled, they will only get more beaten once the market gets popped. ENPH, we talked about this one. This was a nice trade, right? Short up at the 200-day. Again, look at that. Look at that choppy action. You're welcome to do whatever you need. That's hard. For solar, again, look for highs, then to short, right? HYG, I'm like, you got to be high to your mind to buy a corporate debt. We talked about it chopping around. Let's end it with the oil and the gas. Meow. Here you go. Chopping around. I mean, I don't like UNG. We talked about this for a natural gas product. We like shorting the KOLD. I got split again. Man, any major pop in my opinion. And again, if the market gets sideways, just remember this could go into the 80s. But if you're zooming out and you see it decays, it's a great long-term short. XOP, we talked about it filling the gap in the 160s. We talked about it being oversold. Not surprised it's bouncing back to the 20-day. Could it retest the highs? Always possible. ExxonMobil had earnings. Little gap down. Again, it's back at all-time highs and it can't get over it. CVE, this has been a strong name. We like this guy. It's a small oil company or oil and gas company. Just watching these levels. If it breaks over, it could go. I mean, just who knows? We talked about gasoline names leading down. Look at that. I mean, nothing. Not much of a bounce there. Not much of a bounce, right? I mean, this is looking a little scary here, right? Drop fast, chop, next leg down. Maybe. Occidental, we talked about. Buffett, sell zone up at the highs. Chop, chop, EQT. Again, I love EQT long term, don't you? I do, right? Let it come in. Again, let them throw the baby out the bathwater. Let them throw the commodity names away and just be patient. Last but not least, Flex LNG. Again, I love the idea that we're going to be natural gas exporting. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, please reach out. Always here to help, here to solve your problems. If you're struggling, you're dealing with problems, you're having tough times trying to figure out what to do, don't hesitate to reach out. Love to help you out. Love to point you in a direction where I can at least get you started mentally, because a lot of this is mental. And if you need help with real estate, creative finance, all the fun games out there, oh my God, hit me up. I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon.